Mia, a young girl no older than 10, walks into a CEO's office for a job interview. But when she receives a shocking text about her mother's hospitalization, everything changes. The CEO is stunned. It's 9 a.m., and the tall corporate building gleams in the morning sun. Its glass walls reflect the bustling city around it. But inside, there's a different kind of stillness. The kind you'd expect in a place where only important people, the decision makers, walk. The kind of building where dreams are either made or crushed in the blink of an eye. And today, a little girl, barely 9 years old, was about to step into that very world. She walks into the lobby, her steps small but firm. She holds her head high, but you can see the nerves in her tiny hands as they grip the strap of her bag. Her dress is clean and neatly pressed, but it's clear it's not brand new. The shoes? Too big for her. They're a hand-me-down from a relative, but she doesn't mind. To her, they're just another piece of her armor as she steps into the battlefield. She doesn't belong here. Not in the way most people think, but she's here, and that in itself is something remarkable. She's here for a job interview. The receptionist looks at her, a bit puzzled. Is this a prank? She thinks, staring at the young girl dressed in her best attempt at formal wear. What could a child be doing here? The little girl approaches the desk with a polite, almost rehearsed, "Good morning, ma'am. I'm here for the interview." The receptionist blinks, not sure if she should laugh or be concerned. Interview? You're here for the internship, right? Number for the job, the girl responds confidently, her voice high but unwavering. The receptionist laughs nervously, thinking it's a misunderstanding. Okay, sure, let me check. But before the receptionist can get any further, the girl interrupts gently. I'm supposed to meet Mr. Peterson. I can wait. She walks past the desk, moving towards the elevator. The receptionist watches her go, too shocked to say anything. The girl's face doesn't waver. She's been here before, waiting, watching, hoping for the impossible to become real. Minutes later, inside the CEO's office, Mr. Peterson, a middle-aged man known for his sharp mind and cold demeanor, is on the phone. He's busy, trying to wrap up the day's most pressing matters, but as he hears the receptionist's voice over the phone, it stops him. Mr. Peterson, there's a little girl here. She says she's here for the interview. I think there's been some mistake. She can't be serious. Mr. Peterson doesn't respond immediately. A child? An interview? He runs a multi-million-dollar corporation. What possible reason could a child have to come here? Send her in, he says after a long pause, his curiosity piqued. Let's see what this is about. The door opens, and there she is, standing in the doorway, her little figure framed by the towering office. She steps in with purpose, her eyes scanning the room for a seat. Her small hands are folded in front of her, trying to hold herself together. Hello, Mr. Peterson. My name is Mia, she says, her words perfectly clear, though she seems almost too polite for her age. The CEO sits back in his chair, observing this tiny figure who has just walked into his office. The same office where power brokers, executives, and billionaires have come and gone. The contrast is stark. It's almost laughable. But Mia doesn't laugh. She simply walks forward and sits across from him. How can I help you today, Mia? He asks, trying to keep his voice neutral, though his mind is racing. I'm here for the job, she repeats calmly. I want to help. The CEO raises an eyebrow. Help? In what way? I have big dreams, Mia says, her voice now carrying a weight that belies her small stature. I want to work for a big company like yours. My mom, she's been sick for a long time. I want to make sure she's okay. I want to help her get better. I know I can make it. He's about to speak, but before he can, his phone buzzes on the desk. He glances at the screen and picks up the call without thinking. It's his assistant. Mr. Peterson, it's urgent. We've just received news. The girl's mother, she's in the hospital. The situation's critical. The CEO freezes. A chill runs down his spine. For a moment, everything goes still. The world outside the window seems to blur. The voice on the other end keeps talking, but it feels like static. Her mother? He repeats, his voice suddenly distant. The girl sitting right in front of him looks at him with wide eyes, her small hands still clasped neatly in her lap. He's staring at her now, his mind racing. This child, this little girl, came here for an interview. But he knows now. He sees the pain in her eyes, the determination that refuses to show weakness. Her mother, the one she's been caring for, the one she's been worrying about. And here Mia is, sitting in front of him, acting like it's just another day. In that moment, something shifts inside the CEO. His world, one built on logic and power, suddenly feels small, insignificant. Here is a little girl, no more than a child, carrying a burden he can barely comprehend. And yet she's here, in his office, asking for help. Not for herself, but for her mother. The room seems to close in. And just as quickly, the weight of what Mia is going through becomes apparent. She hasn't just come here to sit in a boardroom and pretend to be an adult. She's here because she believes, against all odds, that this is the one way she can help her family, to save her mom, to make things better. The CEO is stunned. He can't speak. There's a heavy silence that falls between them. And then Mia, still holding her head high, speaks again. "Mr. Peterson," she says softly, "I'm not scared. I just want to help. If you can't give me the job, maybe you can help my mom." The silence between them stretches, heavy and full of unspoken words. The air in the CEO's office feels thick now, like the kind of tension you can cut with a knife. Mia, this young girl who had just walked into the most powerful man's office, wasn't looking for sympathy or pity. She was just looking for a chance to do something, to make a difference, to give her mother the help she desperately needed. And the CEO, Mr. Peterson, he didn't know what to do. He was a man who was used to making decisions quickly, with clarity. But this wasn't something he could just decide with the stroke of a pen. This was different. It was real. Her words echoed in his mind. "I want to help my mom." He glanced at the phone again, the call from his assistant still hanging in the air, reminding him of the gravity of the situation. Mia's mother was in the hospital. Her condition was worsening, but here was this little girl, sitting in front of him with nothing but hope in her eyes. Mr. Peterson looked at her, his sharp eyes scanning her face. There was no doubt about it. This was the most vulnerable he had ever felt in a room. His empire, his millions, his connections. They all seemed meaningless in this moment. What mattered was that this child, this sweet, brave girl, was showing him something that his wealth and power could never give him. Raw, unfiltered humanity. "You don't need to be here, Mia," he said softly, trying to break the tension. "There are other ways to help your mom. There are doctors, hospitals. You don't have to worry about this job. You should be with her." But Mia shook her head. "I want to be here. I want to help. If I can work for you, I can earn money. Money for her treatment." Her words hit him like a cold slap. It wasn't just a child talking anymore. It was someone who had been forced to grow up too soon. Someone who was willing to do anything to help someone she loved. The room felt suffocating as he considered her plea. Could he really turn her down? Could he just say no to a child who was fighting, not for herself, but for her mother's life? But the practical side of him, the side that built this empire, knew better. A 9-year-old couldn't just walk in and get hired. There were rules, laws, procedures. No company could hire someone that young. The legal ramifications alone were enough to shut this down. But how could he explain that to her? How could he shatter the only hope she had left? For a moment, the CEO felt powerless. He was a businessman, a titan in his field. But in that office, he was just a man confronted with a raw, emotional truth that made him question everything he believed in. His mind raced, thinking of 1,000 ways to get out of this, telling her the truth, telling her no, sending her back to her world of waiting and worrying, but none of them felt right. He couldn't be the man who crushed this little girl's spirit, not after seeing the determination in her eyes. And so, he did the only thing he could do. He stood up, walked over to his desk, and reached for a piece of paper. He scribbled something down quickly, then folded it into an envelope. "Mia," he said, his voice now steady but filled with emotion, "I can't hire you, but I can help you in another way." Mia looked up, her heart pounding in her chest. He handed her the envelope. "This is a donation to your mother's treatment. I know it's not a job, but it's something. It's a start. I don't know if it will be enough, but I want to help. Mia's eyes widened, and for a moment she didn't know what to say. She took the envelope with trembling hands, as if the weight of it might break her. Thank you, she whispered, her voice barely audible. Mr. Peterson looked at her, his eyes softening. You're stronger than most adults I know. You've got courage. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. She nodded, swallowing hard as she wiped away a tear. I'll make sure my mom gets the treatment she needs, she said quietly, her voice now full of resolve. The CEO's heart swelled with pride. He, he had never been one to show emotion, but right then, he felt a lump in his throat. This little girl had shown him something that he had almost forgotten. The power of hope. The power of standing up, even when the world is pushing you down. As Mia turned to leave, Mr. Peterson called out to her, Mia, don't forget. Sometimes even the smallest people can make the biggest difference. And with that she left, her head held high, the envelope clutched tightly in her hands. Mia walked out of the CEO's office, her heart still racing. The weight of the envelope in her hands felt heavier than it had a few moments ago. The office door closed behind her with a soft click, and the world outside seemed to return to normal, as if nothing extraordinary had just happened. But for Mia, everything had changed. She wasn't sure how she was going to make sense of it all. The CEO had given her a donation, but she didn't want his pity. She had wanted a job. She had wanted to earn the money herself. She wanted to prove to everyone and to herself that she was capable of handling this, that she wasn't just some helpless little girl. But as she walked down the hallway, the harsh reality of her situation sank in. Her mom was in the hospital, fighting for her life, and Mia had no choice but to take what she could get. She could barely make sense of the emotions swirling inside her. Was she disappointed, relieved, confused? All of the above. She looked down at the envelope. It seemed like a lifeline, but something in her refused to accept it. She had wanted to walk in there, sit down and prove herself, not leave with a handout. Her fingers tightened around the envelope, crumpling it slightly. But then a thought flickered in her mind. What if this really does help? She had no idea how much the donation would cover, or if it was even enough for the long road ahead. But the mere fact that someone like Mr. Peterson, was willing to help her in any way felt like a spark of hope. And maybe that was all she needed right now. Hope. Hope that things could change, that she could make a difference. When Mia reached the elevator, she stepped in and pressed the button for the ground floor, her mind racing with 100 thoughts at once. She couldn't shake the feeling that she was leaving something unfinished. She had gone there with a purpose, but now that purpose felt blurred, replaced by uncertainty. As the elevator descended, her phone buzzed in her pocket. She pulled it out, glancing at the screen. It was a text from her aunt. "How's your mom? Is she awake?" Mia's stomach twisted. She hadn't told anyone that she was going for the interview today. She'd kept it a secret from everyone, not wanting them to worry. But now she was caught in a tug-of-war between her mom's health and her own dreams. She quickly typed a response. "She's still in a coma. I'm trying everything I can. I'll let you know." As she hit send, the elevator door opened and Mia stepped out into the lobby. Her shoes echoed on the marble floor, but it felt like the sound was distant, like she wasn't really there. Her mind was too far away, caught in a whirlwind of thoughts. She stepped outside the building and looked up at the clear blue sky. It was a beautiful day, but it felt like everything around her was clouded. Her phone buzzed again, this time with a message from her mom's hospital. "Please call us regarding your mother's condition." Mia's breath caught in her throat. She didn't want to face what was waiting for her on the other side of that phone call, but she knew she had to. She had to know what was happening to her mom. She had to know what kind of chance she had to save her. Without thinking, she dialed the number and pressed the phone to her ear. The line rang once, twice, 3 times before a soft voice answered. "This is St. Mary's Hospital. How may I assist you?" "Hi," Mia said, trying to keep her voice steady. "I'm calling about my mom. Her name is Jessica Thompson. I'm her daughter." There was a pause on the other end of the line. The voice seemed to hesitate, and that hesitation alone made Mia's heart race. "I'm afraid we don't have any new updates at the moment. However, I would recommend coming down here if possible. The doctors will be able to give you more information in person." Mia's grip on the phone tightened. Her worst fear was becoming a reality. Is she, is she okay? The words felt so small, so fragile, but they carried all her anxiety, all her fear. The nurse on the other end sighed. We're doing everything we can. Please come as soon as you can. The line went dead, and Mia was left standing there, her phone still pressed against her ear. She felt numb. The tears that had been threatening to spill finally fell, slowly at first. Then in a rush, as the weight of the last few days came crashing down. She wiped her eyes and looked up again. Her surroundings felt surreal, almost as if the world was moving at a different pace than she was. She had to get to her mom. She had to be there for her. The envelope in her hand suddenly felt lighter, as if it was no longer a weight but a fleeting symbol of a life that had been touched, however briefly, by kindness. But Mia's mission wasn't over. She couldn't stop now. She wiped her tears, took a deep breath, and started walking. The road ahead was uncertain, but Mia was determined. She would do whatever it took to help her mom. And one day when she had the chance, she would go back to that CEO's office, not for a handout, but to prove to herself that she could make a difference, not just in her life, but in the world. The hospital doors loomed ahead, their heavy glass panes reflecting the harsh fluorescent lights of the lobby. Mia stepped through them, her heart hammering in her chest. The smell of antiseptic filled the air, the sterile environment making everything feel cold, distant, like she was walking through a world that wasn't quite her own. She approached the reception desk, the sound of her footsteps echoing in the quiet hall. The receptionist looked up at her, eyes kind but tired, as if this was all just another day in the endless cycle of hospital life. "Can I help you?" the receptionist asked, her voice smooth but soft. "I'm here to see my mom. Her name is Jessica Thompson." The receptionist nodded, tapping something on her keyboard. Mia could see the weariness in her movements, the dullness in her eyes. It wasn't the first time she'd had to deal with people in distress, and it certainly wouldn't be the last. "Room 407, the receptionist said, handing Mia a visitor's pass. "You can take the elevator at the end of the hall." Mia nodded, her throat tightening. She barely registered the words as she took the pass, her thoughts racing. Room 407. It was just a number, but to Mia it felt like a symbol of everything she was about to face. She wanted to run, to hide from whatever awaited her behind that door. But she knew she couldn't. She had to be strong. She followed the directions, walking down the long hallway, passing other rooms where families sat, waiting, praying, hoping. She could hear soft conversations, muffled cries, the occasional cough or sniffle. It felt like a world she'd never been a part of before, and now she was standing in the middle of it, trying to make sense of it all. When she reached the elevator, she pressed the button for the fourth floor. The elevator doors slid open with a soft chime, and Mia stepped inside. The elevator felt smaller than she remembered, and the space between her and the walls seemed to close in as the doors shut behind her. As it ascended, the anxiety in her chest tightened. Her palms were sweaty and her breath shallow. She glanced up at the number display, floor after floor passing by, until finally it reached the fourth. The doors opened with a soft ding, and Mia stepped out. Room 407 was just down the hall. Her steps were slow, deliberate, as if she was trying to hold on to whatever courage she had left. Each step felt like a journey into the unknown. When she reached the door, she paused. She could hear the soft beeping of machines inside, the rhythmic sound of her mother's life support system. Mia took a deep breath, her heart racing as she pushed the door open. Inside, the room was dimly lit, the curtains drawn, but Mia could still see her mom lying in the bed. Jessica Thompson, the woman who had always been her rock, now looked frail, fragile, and distant. The woman who used to hold her hand and tell her everything would be okay was now motionless, her chest rising and falling with the help of machines. The heart rate monitor beeped steadily, the only indication that she was still alive. Mia's breath caught in her throat. She stepped forward slowly, her feet dragging as if she were wading through a sea of emotions. She didn't want to believe what she was seeing. This wasn't the woman who had raised her, who had taught her how to be strong, how to fight for what she believed in. "Mom," Mia whispered, her voice trembling. She reached out and gently touched her mother's hand, the warmth of her skin a stark contrast to the coldness of the room. A nurse, who had been standing in the corner, came over and smiled at Mia, though there was sadness in her eyes. "She's stable for now," the nurse said softly, "but we're doing everything we can." Mia nodded, her throat tight with emotion. She wanted to say so much, wanted to scream, to cry, to demand that this nightmare end. But the words wouldn't come. All she could do was sit there, holding her mother's hand, praying that she would wake up. Minutes turned to hours as Mia sat by her mother's side. She had sent her aunt a quick text to let her know where she was, but other than that, she didn't want to be disturbed. This time, this moment, belonged to her and her mom. She knew that her life was about to change. But in this room, surrounded by the hum of machines and the quiet pulse of her mother's breath, it felt as though the world had stopped spinning. She could hear the distant voices of doctors and nurses as they passed by the door, but it all felt so far away. "Please, Mom," Mia whispered, her eyes closing as she held on tighter. "Please don't leave me." The tears she had been holding back finally spilled over, and she let them fall freely, unashamed. In this moment, nothing else mattered. It didn't matter what had happened at the interview or what the CEO had said. All that mattered was her mom and the love, the strength, and the hope that Mia was holding on to, even when everything else seemed to be slipping away. Mia's eyes were heavy, her eyelids threatening to close as the hours stretched on. Her mother's slow, steady breaths were the only thing keeping her grounded in the sterile hospital room. It was strange how the life support machines hummed like some sort of unnatural lullaby, and yet all Mia could focus on was the fear gnawing at her insides. A soft knock at the door broke her reverie. "Come in," Mia said softly, her voice hoarse from hours of silence and emotion. The door creaked open, and Mia's aunt, Claire, stepped inside. Claire was a woman of quiet strength, her short graying hair a reminder of the battles she had fought. She always seemed to carry the weight of the world on her shoulders, but today her expression was one of worry. Her eyes were red-rimmed, likely from worry or a sleepless night, or maybe both. "How is she?" Claire asked, her voice gentle, though Mia could hear the underlying panic. She had been as close to Jessica as anyone could be, and seeing her sister in this condition was breaking her heart. Mia shook her head, not trusting herself to speak. Her eyes locked on her mother's face. The paleness, the stillness. Every inch of her mother seemed foreign now, as if she were a shadow of the vibrant woman Mia had known. "She's hanging on," Mia said, finally finding her voice. "But I don't know how long she can keep fighting." Claire's gaze softened, and she moved to sit beside Mia, offering a quiet, comforting presence. The two of them sat there for a while, letting the silence speak for itself. But in that silence, a sense of helplessness lingered. How much longer would they have with Jessica? Suddenly, Mia's phone buzzed, breaking the stillness. She pulled it from her pocket and glanced at the screen. It was a message from her boss. Her heart skipped a beat. Mia hadn't expected to hear from anyone about the interview, not while her mom was in such critical condition. But there it was, an unread message, and she knew she couldn't ignore it. Mia glanced at Claire, who gave a small nod, silently offering her the space to check it. The words on the screen made Mia's stomach turn. "Mia, I hope your mom is doing well. I wanted to inform you that you've been selected for the position, but I understand if this is a difficult time for you. Take the time you need to respond. Congratulations." Mia stared at the message, disbelief slowly sinking in. She had done it. Against all odds, she had secured the job. But even in her joy, there was a deep emptiness, a bittersweet taste in her mouth. Her mother had been her biggest cheerleader, and now she lay in a hospital bed, fighting for her life. How could she enjoy this victory when the most important person in her life might not be there to see it? Mia felt a weight on her chest, a crushing realization. The job, the opportunity. Those were things she had worked so hard for, but none of them mattered if she didn't have her mother by her side. She turned her phone off, setting it aside. There was no way she could focus on work right now. Claire noticed the shift in Mia's energy and placed a hand gently on her shoulder. "You're strong, Mia," she said softly, her voice full of understanding. "Your mom would be proud of you. And you know what? You'll get through this no matter what happens." Mia nodded, but the doubt still lingered. How could she go on without her mother's guidance, her love, her unyielding support? A nurse entered the room just then, her soft smile offering a small amount of comfort. "Excuse me, Mia," the nurse said. "We need to adjust some of your mother's medications. It'll only take a few minutes." Mia stood up slowly, following the nurse to the other side of the room, where her mother's IVs and tubes were connected. Claire remained by the bed, her hands resting gently on her sister's cold, lifeless-looking hand. As the nurse made the necessary adjustments, Mia's gaze drifted to the small frame photo on the bedside table. It was a picture of her mother and her from a happier time, smiling on a beach vacation years ago, before the weight of illness had stolen so much from their lives. The picture felt like a different lifetime, a distant memory that seemed so out of place in this sterile, cold hospital room. Mia felt a pang of longing deep in her chest. "I don't know what I'm going to do if I lose her," Mia whispered, though it was unclear whether she was speaking to Claire or herself. Claire turned her gaze to the picture, and then back to Mia, her expression pained yet resolute. "You'll keep going," Claire said, "just like she would have wanted. You're her legacy." Mia swallowed hard, but the truth of Claire's words hit her in a way that left her breathless. No matter what happened, she had to keep going. She had to honor her mother's strength, her tenacity, her love. But what if it wasn't enough? What if she couldn't be the person her mother had always seen in her? Just then, the door opened again, and the doctor stepped inside. He was a tall man with kind eyes, but there was a weariness about him. He cleared his throat and addressed them both gently. "I'm afraid we have some difficult news," he said. Mia's heart skipped a beat. "What is it?" she asked, her voice trembling. The doctor hesitated before speaking again. "Your mother's condition has worsened. We're doing everything we can, but—" He trailed off, the words hanging in the air like a dark cloud. Mia felt like the world was slipping through her fingers. The words from the doctor had pierced her heart, leaving a hollow ache that reverberated in her chest. "We're doing everything we can, but—" Those words had echoed in her mind, looping over and over like a broken record. She had expected bad news, but nothing had prepared her for the weight of those final words. The doctor had left, his presence now replaced by an unbearable silence that felt like a tangible force pressing in on her. The rhythmic beeping of her mother's heart monitor, once a reassuring sound, now seemed like a ticking time bomb, reminding her that every second could be the last. Claire had stood up beside her eyes filled with sorrow as she took Mia's hand in hers. The comfort of her aunt's touch was the only thing that grounded her in that moment, but even that couldn't shield her from the storm raging inside. She wanted to scream, to rage against the unfairness of it all. How could this be happening? Her mother had always been so strong, so full of life, so full of warmth and love. How could she be fading away so quickly? Mia turned to face her mother, who lay unconscious on the hospital bed, connected to countless machines. The woman who had shaped every part of her life, every part of her being, was slipping away. And all Mia could do was sit and watch. "Mom, please," Mia whispered, her voice breaking. "I need you. I need you to fight. Please don't leave me." There was no response, just the steady rhythm of the machines. The more she looked at her mother, the more distant she felt, as though she were watching someone else's life unfold. "You're so strong," Mia whispered, her tears falling freely. "You've always been there for me. You've always believed in me. Don't stop now. Please don't leave me alone." The words felt hollow, futile. No matter how many times she begged, no matter how hard she prayed, nothing would change the cold reality of the situation. And then, the familiar buzzing of her phone interrupted her thoughts. For a moment, Mia thought she might ignore it. But then, on a whim, she picked it up. It was a message from the CEO. "Mia, I understand the difficulty of what you're going through. Take your time. But we still want you to join the team. Your position is secure. Your talent is undeniable." Mia blinked at the words, the message a stark contrast to the turmoil inside her. She had been offered the job she had dreamed of, worked for. And now, as her world was crumbling, they were offering her a lifeline, a chance at the future she had always wanted. But could she take it? Could she leave her mother's side at a time like this? "Is this what she would want for me?" Mia thought, staring at her mother's still face. She didn't know the answer, but one thing was clear. Her life had just become more complicated than she could have ever imagined. The hospital room, once filled with the warmth of family and the hope of a healing future, now felt like a cold, sterile place, devoid of the love that had once filled it. Mia felt torn. She didn't know what the right choice was. Could she really step away from her mother's side, even if it was for a bright future? "I don't know what to do," Mia said, her voice thick with emotion. She looked over at Claire, her aunt's face etched with concern, but also understanding. "Mia, you need to make the decision that feels right for you," Claire said softly, her words gentle but firm. "You know your mother. She's always wanted you to succeed. She's always wanted you to have everything you dreamed of. But she also wants you to be happy no matter what that looks like. You're not abandoning her by taking this opportunity. You're honoring her strength, her belief in you. This is what she would want." Mia wasn't sure if she could believe that. It felt so wrong to even consider it. But then again, maybe Claire was right. Maybe her mother would have wanted her to take the opportunity to build the life they had always talked about. Torn between grief and opportunity, Mia sat in silence, trying to figure out the next step. The decision weighed heavily on her heart. Could she balance this? Could she truly honor her mother's legacy while forging a path toward a brighter future? The minutes stretched into what felt like hours. The hospital room, once a place of care and comfort, now felt like a prison, and Mia was the prisoner, shackled by guilt, love, and confusion. "What should I do?" Mia whispered, the question hanging in the air. As if in answer, her phone buzzed again. She glanced at it, seeing another message from the CEO. But this time, it wasn't just a message, it was an invitation. An invitation to join a team of talented individuals who were waiting for someone like her. Someone who could make an impact. Someone who could help the company grow. She read the message again, the words making her head spin. Was this a sign? Should she take the chance? As Mia stared at her phone, she realized she had come to a crossroads. The next few hours, hell, the next few moments, could change everything. She couldn't keep running from the decision. "Mom," Mia whispered, her voice filled with emotion. "I need to do this for both of us." And with that, she made her choice. It was time to step into the future, even if it meant stepping away from the past. Mia wiped the tears from her eyes, straightened her back, and stood up. She was ready to take the next step. But in the back of her mind, one question still lingered. Would it be enough? Mia stood in front of the mirror, staring at her reflection as she adjusted her outfit. She was about to walk into the world that had just opened its doors to her, a world filled with endless possibilities but also endless doubts. Her heart still felt heavy from the hospital room where her mother's fragile body lay. Every step she took felt like a tug of war between the future and the past. Was this really the right thing? Could she really walk away from everything she had known to chase after something so uncertain? As she adjusted the collar of her blazer, the memory of Claire's words echoed in her mind. "This is your chance. Don't let it slip away." Her phone buzzed again, a reminder that the interview was about to start. Mia took a deep breath, steadied herself, and walked out of the door, the weight of her decision now a part of her. The first few days at the new job were a blur. The office was sleek, modern, filled with faces she didn't recognize and voices that blended into one cacophony of professional ambition. There was something electric about it, like stepping into the future, but at the same time, it felt surreal. The people around her were accomplished, polished, and confident. They spoke in jargon she had only heard in passing, and there were moments when Mia felt like an outsider, unsure of where she fit in. She spent long hours learning new processes, trying to prove her worth. It wasn't easy. Every email, every meeting felt like a challenge, an obstacle to overcome. But slowly, Mia began to find her footing. She grew comfortable with the work, started contributing ideas that gained the attention of her colleagues. The CEO, too, seemed impressed with her progress. He took a moment during a team meeting to acknowledge her contributions, and that meant more to her than anything else. But even as Mia excelled at work, something kept pulling her back to the hospital, to the quiet room where her mother had once laughed, where they had shared meals, tears, and dreams. The guilt never fully left her. She had made a choice, one that had propelled her into a world of success, but it had also left a scar on her heart. She wondered if her mother would have been proud of her decision, if she would have understood why Mia had taken that leap, leaving behind the comfort of family for the uncertainties of the corporate world. Mia knew she was doing the right thing. At least that's what everyone told her. Her aunt had said it. The CEO had said it. But every time Mia looked at the empty chair at her mother's bedside, every time she walked into the hospital and saw the frailty of the woman who had been her rock, the doubt crept back in. Then came the day when Mia had to face her biggest challenge yet. A critical project that could make or break her career had fallen into her lap. The company was about to launch a new product, and the marketing strategy was falling apart. The team was panicking, deadlines were looming, and Mia had just been asked to step up. Her mind raced as she sat in the conference room, brainstorming ideas with the team. This was her chance to prove that she was more than just a fresh face in the office. She knew she could do it. She had to. This was the opportunity she had been waiting for. But there was a catch. The next day, her phone buzzed with a message from Claire. "Mia, your mom, she's taken a turn for the worse. It's time to come. The doctors say she doesn't have much longer." Her heart stopped. For a moment, everything around her blurred. The office, the faces of her colleagues, the conference table, all of it became irrelevant. She could feel the weight of her mother's impending loss pressing down on her chest, suffocating her. "No," Mia whispered to herself, tears stinging her eyes. "I can't go back. Not now. Not when I'm this close." Her team was counting on her. The project was counting on her. And yet the pull to be with her mother, to say goodbye, was almost overwhelming. For a moment, Mia sat in silence, the decision once again weighing heavily on her. But then she realized something. She wasn't just facing a career crossroads. She was facing a life crossroads. And the two were not mutually exclusive. It was a decision that would change the course of her life. Mia realized that her mother had always been the person who had encouraged her to reach for the stars. She had always told Mia that there would be hard choices, but that Mia had the strength to make them. This was one of those moments. Mia stood up from the conference table, her decision made. She excused herself from the meeting and immediately booked a flight to be with her mother. She didn't know what the future held, but she knew she had to be where her heart was. That night, in the quiet hospital room, Mia sat beside her mother, holding her hand. She wasn't sure how long they would have together, but in that moment, it didn't matter. She was there, with the woman who had shaped her into who she was today. As she whispered to her mother, telling her all the things she had never said, Mia felt a sense of peace she hadn't felt in weeks. She had made her choice. She had chosen love, family, and the woman who had always believed in her. And for the first time in a long while, Mia knew she had made the right decision. Because no matter where life took her, no matter how high she soared in the world of business, nothing would ever replace the love and the lessons her mother had given her.